Hey there, Eric Abelos. I've got a cool guest with me today. I've got Megan from NOAA. Megan, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Can you help me understand what is NOAA?
So NOAA, so I'm with the National Weather Service, which is a subsect of NOAA. So NOAA is the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration. It's a big mouthful. That's what we just say, NOAA. And I'm with the National Weather Service, which is a subsect of that.
All right, so you are national weather, and where are you based out of?
I'm based out of Grand Junction, Colorado.
You are based out of Grand Junction, Colorado. Well, welcome to Steamboat, Colorado. Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Hey, so we recently had this wicked storm that passed through Steamboat, it uprooted hundreds of trees around town. And from what I'm hearing from some of the locals that have been here for decades, they are saying they've never seen a storm like this. What can you tell us about that?
Sure. So we ended up having a very strong cold front that dropped down from Canada and moved through the northern Rockies, and it pushed through western Colorado and the Front Range as well. So with this strong cold front, we did see some powerful winds, which they experienced all across the region, especially I think the Salt Lake City area. They ended up having wind gusts over 100 miles an hour. And Steamboat, the highest that we actually could record just around the sensors was about up to 50 miles an hour, but actually some of the sensors went out, so I wouldn't be surprised if some stronger winds happened as a result of those that caused that kind of damage with the trees. And I know you guys had a lot of power outages up there as well. So with this cold front, it was abnormally cold. So we did have just this really cold air that moved in, and we were able to get some really good snow across the region. We actually ended up seeing generally 3 to 6 inches of snow for the Elkhead and Park Mountains, but we did end up seeing locally higher amounts up to 10 inches, which, considering we just started meteorological fall and we're still thinking about summer, it was definitely a surprise to a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, this isn't normal. And so like we had a fire up here. So there was fire, there was smoke, there was like tornado strength winds. You said 50 miles per hour is what you recorded before it went out?
Yeah, so we just have a bunch of automated sensors that are located across the Elkhead and Park Mountains. And yeah, we got upwards of 50 miles an hour, but then the sensors went out. So like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we had something stronger than that. It was definitely pretty much almost blizzard-like conditions across that region.
Yeah, we're showing pictures right now on screen of some of the trees that have been turned up and power lines broke down. And it is hard for me to believe that 50 miles per hour wind did that. But I mean, it's possible, but holy cow, it was so windy. I was scared for my life there for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
This isn't normal for Steamboat Springs. Is this something that is going to become a new normal, or is this something that just it happened once, we're done for it with it for the next 50 years?
So we here at the National Weather Service, we only focus on short-term trends. So we mainly just focus on the 7 to 10-day outlook. But definitely, going forward, the Climate Prediction Center, they're going to be kind of taking this information and seeing what all that means for us in the future. But either way, I like to call like the shoulder seasons, they're kind of our crazy months because we can see everything. I mean, like you said, you had the fires, we had record heat just last Saturday and Sunday. So just before this system moved through, I know Crested Butte, Colorado, they ended up tying a record high on Saturday, I believe it was. So it was really warm for this time of year. And then we had that really strong cold front move through. It's not uncommon for us to get snow in September. It just usually happens towards the end of the month instead of the first couple of days.
Megan, what, if anything, can we do to help you with your job?
That's a great question. So we love to get reports. So many times people just assume that we already know it, but our forecast area is so big. We cover actually eastern Utah and western Colorado. So as far west as Green River, Utah, and as far east as Vail Pass and upwards, you guys in Steamboat Springs. So we have a huge, and as far north as like Steamboat Springs and far south as Durango pretty much. So we have just a wide area and a lot of responsibilities. So anytime we can get weather reports is awesome. I know we did get a lot of reports from the Steamboat area. Actually, with this last storm, we saw those pictures of those downed trees and the power outages as a result. So it's really awesome. So that's the biggest thing you guys can do to help for sure.
Can you tell us what NOAA does to help monitor weather for mountain towns?
So we have a lot of resources that we can use. Most often that's radar and satellite. So with this last storm, we were heavily relying on that, and we have a bunch of automated sensors. So picking up on that wind, we have a bunch of forecast models to predict these systems. So we have just a wide array of tools that we can use to help forecast the weather.
Awesome. And you said that you really focus on like 7 to 10 days out. Is that because it's just kind of unpredictable after 7 to 10 days, or it can just switch up so vastly, or why is it that you only focus on 7 to 10 days out?
Yeah, so the forecast models, the main ones that we use, like the global forecast model and the European one, so those typically end up going out about 2.5 weeks. But we really like to just focus on that 1 week kind of period because things can really change. So for example, with this last system that we had, the models were flip-flopping kind of at least 3 days out. So obviously this is a big impactful storm. So with those model changes, we really need to be able to focus on the short term to make sure we can get the most accurate forecast out to the public. And even going into next week's forecast, the models are already disagreeing about what's going to happen with the next system coming into the region potentially late next week. So yeah, we really just like to focus on the short term just to make sure we're picking up on all the trends and getting the most accurate information out there.
I love it. Take it 1 day at a time, or 2 weeks at a time. So were your systems showing that we were going to be receiving such high winds, or was that kind of like, whoa, that came from nowhere?
No, we were expecting this. We actually did have some wind highlights out in effect. We had, I believe it was a high wind warning for some of our areas in eastern Utah, and then I believe the Steamboat area was under a wind advisory. So yeah, we were expecting these winds, but obviously there was some instability in the atmosphere. So with that, that's always kind of a short-term trend that can produce those stronger gusts that we saw.
So we have a bunch of different fires happening right now. Is that affecting the weather statewide, or is that unrelated?
So the biggest impact that the state has seen from all these wildfires has been the air quality. So I know a lot of people have noticed the smoke has been pretty bad. So, and unfortunately, it's not just our fires, it's also the wildfires that are burning in California. So before we had this nice cold front that moved through, we had high pressure sitting overhead. And with it, we were able to get all this smoke moving in from California, from our fires out here in Grand Junction. So unfortunately, the whole state has just kind of been under this pattern with just all this smoke coming through. But the precipitation definitely did help with these fires, and hopefully they'll improve. At least here in Grand Junction, the air quality has been not a problem at all since that. So hopefully this precipitation is going to help knock those fires out.
So forgive my ignorance, and I might be showing my education level here, but can these fires, the huge amount of smoke in the air, can that affect the temperature, or like if these fires get big enough, can that raise the temperature? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so at least in the short term, for sure. So for example, a couple, I guess it was maybe 2 weeks ago, all the days blend together, but whenever we had that really thick smoke here in Grand Junction in particular, our temperatures, we were expecting them to get, the models were showing maybe triple digit heat. But the smoke actually, it was just so thick that we weren't able to break those temperatures. So while it was still pretty warm, it was cooler than what the models were predicting just because of that thick smoke that they weren't picking up on. So yeah, especially in the short term, the smoke can have an impact on what the temperatures are doing.
So cool and kind of crazy at the same time. So where can people find more information about NOAA, and where can they send like pictures of a storm or anything like that?
That's a great question. So just the general forecast, we have our website, which is weather.gov /GJT. And the great thing about the Weather Service is we have 122 forecast offices that cover all of the United States and going into Guam and Puerto Rico. So we cover pretty much everything in the United States. So it's great that people can just go to weather.gov and they can just type in their location and find that information. So there you'll find just our usual 7-day forecast. We have a bunch of great resources, like during the summer months, we have our lightning potential index. So that's great for when people are out hiking in the mountains. We have our snowfall probabilities, which people can definitely use going into the winter season, which show kind of the high and low end amounts of snow predicted for each event. And we're also on social media, so Facebook and Twitter. That's a great place that people can send us pictures.
And what is the Twitter tag there?
So we are at NWS GJT, and our Facebook is at NWS Grand Junction.
Awesome, guys. And we will be tagging you guys on our Twitter feed, Facebook feed, and on our website. We'll put a link to your website on there as well. Thank you so much, Megan, for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. We appreciate it. And thank you guys for sending us those reports and for having a great time. We love supporting you guys.
Yeah, I'd love to have you guys back on as we approach winter season to talk about snowfall and stuff like that with you guys. That'd be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here 24/7, 365. So if you want to talk at 3 a.m., we're up.
That's good to know. I will not be up, but that is good to know. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned because we actually have more show coming to you. Stick around.